Hey everyone, today we are testing out the Poison Bullet, the 7 and 6 ammo in 545 by 39. I have my friend Christian here with me to help me analyze the performance of this bullet. Now, this is a very legendary bullet. When the AK-74s were first introduced, and when the Soviet Union went into Afghanistan, that's where this got nicknamed the Poison Bullet, because it was just doing so much damage on impact. And so it's built up this lore around it, and I wanted to see for myself. Now, there's a lot of other videos out there. I like seeing things for myself, and it never hurts to have more data on a topic, so we decided to test this out. Plus, everyone's been asking for it since I started doing 545 gel tests. So what we're going to be doing today is shooting it through my Riley Defense AK-74, and then we're going to be doing some velocity testing with it just to get some data on that, and then shooting it into the same gel blocks we've been using for every other 545 test, just reformed, so that we're getting as good of an apples-to-apples comparison as possible. So let's go ahead and cut into the velocity data, then we'll go to the ballistics, and then we will wrap up our thoughts.
Shoot!
3067, 2985, 3011, 3002, and
Do you understand you're putting all those through
2989.
like a
What's
one
that?
hole?
Yeah, I know. That's actually really impressive. Granted, it's still 10 yards, but still.
But still!
That's not bad. First round, 7 and 6. Okay.
Good hit.
Alright, so here we have the gel block that we just shot with the 7 and 6, and I got one that I expected and one that I didn't quite expect. So first up, I shot this one here towards the top of your screen, and we saw as we walked up, you know, pretty large permanent wound cavity. We'll have to look at the slow-mo to see what the temporary wound cavity was like. In fact, we might actually not be able to because my GoPro died, I think, right as I shot it, but we'll see. And then it clearly diverted down, and what we saw was it clearly went into the table, but amazingly, the projectile was still stuck in that carpet there on top of the table. And as you can tell, this bullet, and I'll show you close-ups in case this thing doesn't want to focus properly, this projectile looks, other than the like markings from the lands and grooves, looks like a perfectly fine projectile. Like, I feel like I could just throw this in another case and be able to shoot it if I had the capacity to reload 545. So we only had the 12 inches of gel to look at because this first block is 12 inches, but pretty immediately, let me grab my tape measure here, we got within the first 2 inches starts opening up into that permanent wound cavity, which is, again, goes to speak to how effective this round is against fleshy targets. Because if you look at the 556 that I've tested recently, it goes 4 or 5 inches before it even starts opening up, which, depending on what you're shooting at, it might already exit before it starts doing the serious damage. So this starts doing the serious damage right away, and we'll see that even more. Christian, do you want to talk about what you saw here? Feel free to.
Okay. Well, as you can see, we got a much bigger permanent wound cavity in this one than they had the first one. This one went all the way through, hit the second block, but diverted out the side, just kind of cut. But it was obviously tumbling when it went through, because you could see this nice little, what looks like a slice through it, and just bleh. So where this one was about 2 inches or so before it started opening up, this one here you can see was only about 1.5 inches before it started opening up, and it opened up much bigger. So we weren't able to find this bullet because it went out and kept on going, so it's in Wyoming, but you can definitely tell that there was a lot more significant damage on this round.
Yeah, and I would say of the FMJ rounds that I've shot so far, and maybe even some of the ballistic tip and like soft point stuff we shot at a 300 blackout together, this might be the biggest permanent wound cavity we've seen so far. And again, that's what I expected. That's why I was so surprised when I was able to pick up this projectile and have 0 deformation on it, because I know that this is what's supposed to happen. So clearly this didn't start to tumble. Well, it tumbled, but it didn't open up and cause it to start tumbling dramatically. Maybe if it had gone through more gel, it might have started doing that, but clearly this one did exactly what you would expect for the poison bullet.
And it is unfortunate that we weren't able to find this route, because I would assume, based on this cavity here, that it did do a little bit more deformation, and it wasn't as streamlined going through as that one was.
Right. And so we have some more gel testing to do today, but if we have space to do it in these blocks, later we'll try to shoot into this to see if we can recover a properly expanded bullet. But if that did happen, you'll see that right now. If not, then we'll go on to our wrap-up thoughts here. Okay, so after seeing what you've seen, and you've been a part of some 300 blackout testing, as well as testing the Hornady VMAX and 545 with me today, what was your take on the terminal performance of that round?
The first round that we shot was kind of disappointing, to be perfectly honest. It didn't start to really open up a wound channel until about 1.5 to 2 inches in there. And then what I noticed about both shots that we did is they didn't fly straight through the gel. They both took a pretty good arc.
Yeah.
And they didn't penetrate very far. Didn't seem like it anyway. So the wound channels were really kind of tight. There wasn't any little fragmentation like you saw with the VMAX at all.
Yeah.
They just zipped through and went out. But that weird little curve that they did was kind of freaky. Because they were identical. They're just like they were skiing.
Yeah, and to be honest, I fully expected that. Just from the lore of the bullet, how much it's tumbling, I expected it to kind of veer off. And I think that's why the penetration that we saw wasn't too significant, just because the bullet exited the gel so quickly. But I agree with you. The first round did not do what I expected it to do. The fact that we were able to recover it in its entirety from the carpet, after going through probably about 10 or so inches of gel at that point.
And hitting carpet.
The fact that it was still together was pretty surprising.
Not only together, in perfect shape.
It
looked completely undeformed.
If it hadn't been for the lands and grooves, I probably would not have been able to tell it had been fire. That said, it still had a pretty impressive permanent wound cavity.
The second round did.
The second round had a more impressive,
Much
by
more
far.
impressive.
But the first round, compared to the other testing I've done so far, is right on par, if not better, especially with how fast it started tumbling, than pretty much everything I've tested in 5.56. That's an FMJ.
It definitely tumbled. You could definitely tell from the gel, even though the bullet didn't go very far through, it definitely tumbled. It looked like you just threw a saw blade through there.
Right. And considering the round that we recovered from the carpet was facing back towards us, that definitely lends to that idea as well. The second round, however, did do a lot more of what I was expecting.
A lot more in the beginning,
Significantly larger permanent wound cavity.
I would venture to say 50 to 75% bigger.
Yeah,
it was big.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, you guys have seen the pictures, so you can, judge that for yourselves. And I really want to see the temporary wound cavity. I want to look at the slow-mo and see that, because I think that's going to be really impressive too. And then again, that exited pretty quickly out of the second block of gelatin. But that permanent wound cavity was significant.
It was.
And very impressive. And I would say so far, of the intermediate cartridges I've tested, again, specifically in FMJs, that is the most impressive result I've had so far, which is, again, what I expected, given the lore of this being the poison bullet.
Yeah, and it did exit the gel, but it looked like, from what the gel looked like it exited the gel sideways.
Yeah, yeah.
Because it was a big, wide, just track through that second piece of gel on the side.
Yeah.
That was kind of cool.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And so I would say, again, from what I've seen against fleshy targets, 7 and 6 and kind of even more broadly 545, is probably the most effective intermediate cartridge against fleshy targets. So again, if you're not talking about someone who's wearing a bunch of armor, and even then, this still has a steel penetrator in it, hence why it's no longer being imported.
Yeah.
But its ability to just open up that quickly, it's going to open up in your target. And it's going to cause a very significant wound that is not going to be easy to patch up, and that's definitely going to probably take someone out of a fight.
Not to mention, it doesn't go straight through.
And it doesn't go straight through. It's
even
very unpredictable.
Yeah. It's like the Kennedy bullet all over the place.
Exactly. Which the Kennedy bullet looked a lot like the first bullet.
Not
did
a
when it
lot
came
of
out.
deformation.
Nothing happened to it. But that's a topic for another video. In fact, I just watched the Joe Rogan podcast where he was talking to Michael Shermer, about that. But anyway, so different results with the first shot. Second shot was right in line what I expected. So that kind of shows how unpredictable things can be and why I wanted to get 2 rounds into it. What we might try to do now, since we have the gel blocks still and they're still pretty in good shape, we might try shooting some more rounds into them to see if we can recover a bullet still in the gel to see what it actually looks like. But all in all, I would say I'm impressed.
For a meat grinder of a bullet, yeah.
Yeah. And
I don't know what its accuracy is out to distance, but if you're shooting something, if you hit it, damn.
Well, and we were doing the velocity testing at a target that was 10 yards away. We had the chronograph 10 feet in front, and the target we were shooting at was 10 yards. It was one ragged hole.
One ragged hole. Yeah. Maybe 3/4 of an inch at its maximum.
And it was cruising at, as you guys saw, just over 3,000 per second.
And that's not rested. That was just offhand shooting, too.
Yeah.
Just real quick and dirty, getting the chronograph going.
Yeah.
Not really trying.
Not really
to
trying.
Be super
just
accurate.
trying to get it through the center of the chronograph. And it was.
I think your first 4 or 5 shots were the same hole.
Yeah.
I think you started drifting a little bit on your last 2, and that's what opened that up.
Yeah.
But if you hadn't shot those last 2, it'd have been 1 hole.
And if 545,
it's because you're so good.
Yeah, oh, of course, it's my ability. If 7 and 6 wasn't such a pain in the ass to get a hold of right now, I'd probably do a lot more accuracy testing and stuff with it. But I mean, its reputation precedes it, so I don't really have to do that to show you guys how effective it is.
It's definitely a poison bullet.
It's definitely a poison bullet. So again, just like every other test so far, I'm going to have a lot more written data and minutia of the details in an AKFiles forum thread. So a link to that will be in the description below. I want to say thanks to my patrons for making a video like this possible. Putting together the gel blocks is not cheap. Buying the ammo, especially in 545, it's not cheap. It's not expensive, but it's more expensive than it used to be. So again, that wouldn't happen without my patrons. And being able to get Christian's handsome face in these videos is always fun as well. So if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, go and throw those in the comment section down below. I'll try to get back to you as quick as I can. But anyway, with all that said, as always, I hope you're able to get something out of this video, and I really appreciate you watching.
Yeah, well, I have nothing better to do in my life. Here's a question for you. If you took one of those 7.6 poison bullets and you rubbed it all over a poison arrow frog and then you shot somebody with it, would it be a poison bullet, or would you just still say poison bullet?
I would say poison squared.
Poison squared bullet, okay. What if you shot the poison arrow frog with it?
What if you were able to get your target to hold the poison dart frog in front of them, so it impacted and started tumbling before it even exited?
That'll be our next video.
Frog. No, it's not. All right. Hey everyone, today we are out here testing out the poison bullet, the 5.4. God damn it! I'm just gonna start over.
Cut. Check the gate. Reset. Everybody back to 1.
I always want to say 5.45 when I'm trying to say 7 and 6, which isn't incorrect.
6, then.
I know.
Think Seagram 7 and 7.
It's gonna just make it more complicated.
7 and 5.
Hey everyone,